So it's been how long exactly since we saw the 7.1.5 PTR build, which we actually can't get on. I've been trying to get on PTR for like a while. But whenever we saw the announcements for the further rogue PvP nerfs, I've just been carefully monitoring the forum posts, and doesn't look like rogues are getting that many responses. There's a lot of forum posts of people talking a bit about rogues when it comes to PvP, and some people have questions, some people are upset, but you generally see where the rogue community is at. And the rogue community is split. There are two types of rogues right now. There are those that are going to stick around and are going to play no matter the nerfs, and are actually saying that, hey, we should get nerfed. For example, we should actually hit with a wet fish. Actually, a Blizzard should replace our artifact weapon with a literal wet fish. And I'm just not sure where I stand on this anymore. And yeah, I just don't understand it. So we all know what Blizzard is like. We've all been playing this game for a while, and especially those that are PvP know all too well some of the buffs and the nerfs that Blizzard devs go through. Some of them just don't make sense, let's be honest. For example, what Blizzard sometimes likes to do is take a look at, let's say, 3 different talents, where one of them is the strongest and the only realistic option, where the other 2 are just not quite that good for PvP. So instead of buffing the other 2 and trying to buff them just for PvP, Blizzard ends up nerfing the one that everybody is using, in hopes that, hey, maybe somebody somewhere will figure out if the other 2 underwhelming talents might be viable. So now you have 3 underwhelming talents, so I guess you balance them out, but it feels like you balanced them down. We were asking for buffs for the other 2 talents to make them actually useful, whereas the third one is perfect and it's awesome, but it just feels crappy where all you can do is just pigeonhole yourself into just that one talent. It's cool when you have a feeling of, I guess, variety, diversity, or whatnot. But I just want to talk a little bit about rogues and how I feel there is an easy way to fix them. I feel like it's just super simple, and we can kind of take a look at the previous expansions and what worked. We can take a look at the beginning of this expansion and see what was a little bit too strong, and I guess where Blizzard, it's a question of where they're taking rogues for PvP. For PvE, however, I just want to say for raiding environment, Mythic Plus environment, I think all 3 specs are going to be doing really well. Assassination is getting some changes done to itself for, I think, PvE reasons mostly, and kind of pigeonholing you into one build, but still is a really good build. Subtlety is getting an opportunity to be viable for PvE, especially Mythic Pluses, and maybe even in raid environments. And Outlaw is simply just getting a change for its playstyle, where you're going to be going from most likely a more dynamic playstyle with Roll the Bones down to Slice and Dice. A little less dynamic, a little less varied, but very much consistent damage, and a great alternative for anybody who does not like Roll the Bones. So I feel like for PvE, rogues aren't really getting adjusted all too much. I feel like most of the adjustments that were done for PvE for rogues were around legendaries that are going to be coming out. For example, Deeper Stratagem, I guess, is a really strong talent, and I guess it puts Outlaw a little bit too far ahead. If you have certain few legendaries together, it can put Subtlety a bit too far ahead with the new buffs that they've gotten, and especially puts Assassination way far ahead in certain PvE situations, where rogues, I guess, are not supposed to be the top DPS, but are supposed to be pretty competitive. But their main mechanic is the survivability and defensives, and basically the live lordiness that they can use in order to get past certain boss mechanics. But for PvP, I feel like rogues are just starting to suffer more and more. And when I say suffer, I don't want to, pick the, the worst sounding word like, oh, rogues are getting oppressed, like, oh, it's like as if Fidel Castro is buffing and nerfing us. No, it's not that bad, but it is pretty shitty. As a rogue, just to go into casual PvP, people would sometimes go into play Subtlety, sometimes go play Assassination, and some people would go play Combat. What was nice about all 3 specs, let's say back in Warlords of Draenor, for example, where Warlords of Draenor wasn't the greatest PvP expansion, wasn't the greatest expansion by any means, but for rogues, it was pretty damn good. You could play Assassination, Combat, or Subtlety and perform fairly well, whether you're just doing some random BGs in casual PvP or hardcore high-rated PvP. You were the kind of class that wasn't really replaceable, so the comps that you had, the comps that you played, even though a few specific comps, were the comps designed to be played with a rogue, and that was really cool. But what made rogues really strong back then? Well, let's take a look at rogues at the very beginning of Legion. And let's take a look at Assassination. What is great about Assassination at the very start is its strong damage and reliable cooldowns. Once you have a Vendetta, Full Bleeds, Exsanguinate, and Artifact Weapon, you are going to be melting the enemy, forcing trinkets, forcing defensives, and there was no way around it. In the current state, Assassination can push out a lot of burst damage onto a target. In BGs, if you have healers, for the most part, it's manageable if there's a defensive, because of all the damage nerfs that have come out. But let's be honest, Assassination was a little bit overtuned at the beginning, so we can take a few nerfs, that's completely fine. But now I feel like at a point where if you get a proc for Bag of Tricks, you are so far ahead just because of the Bag of Tricks proc for Assassination. And if you don't know what the proc is, it is part of your artifact weapon trait, where on an Envenom you have a chance to drop a poison vial under your enemies, dealing massive nature damage in, I think, an 8-yard radius. So it's a somewhat of an AoE ability, but primarily for PvP, single target damage is amazing. With all the different traits combined and working together, if you get Bag of Tricks on top of all your offensive cooldowns, damn, you deal so much burst, and that literally melts healers, forces everybody to freak out, pop trinkets, use cooldowns. In some cases, I've seen myself where I'm popping all my offensive cooldowns on a restoration druid, and the motherfucker just simply hops into bear form, and there he goes. He can literally heal himself to full and stay afloat in bear form, and that makes me feel a little bit silly. It's like, here I am, popping all my cooldowns, and this guy is literally sitting in bear, no bark skin, no anything, able to heal himself to full. As a rogue, anyone would feel a bit underwhelming, to say the least, and I don't think it's all that fun, where literally somebody who does so little, just one change to their playstyle, just sits in bear and spams heal and spams abilities to generate rage, compared to you popping all of your cooldowns, lining up all your bleeds, just dishing out as much damage, managing your energy, managing comp points, and then it feels like you are trying to lift a 10-ton car while they are over there playing with freaking Hot Wheels. And it just doesn't really seem all that fair. It's like, I'm putting so much effort, this guy isn't really putting that much effort, and I'm getting hard countered. That doesn't feel fun. What feels fun when it comes to playing rogues is consistency, or some sort of consistency. I'm not talking about the consistency that Subtlety Rogue currently puts out, because those guys, Subtlety Rogues, are basically sustain bots. You are a CC bot with great sustain, not really a realistic burst, because let's be honest, shadow dances are just a buff that you need to keep up if you're dealing any forms of damage, and then shadow blades is there for extra comp point generation, not an insane burst like what we used to be able to do back in Warlords General, where it was like, wow, once I get DFA up, damn, that's it, bam, I'm gonna hit my enemy hard. Or let's say like shadow blades back in Pandaria, where shadow blades and let's say shadow blades and shadow dance were separate cooldowns. You would open with one, reset, open with the other, and then you had two massive major cooldowns. But what they've done with Subtlety is basically made it where it's sustained base. What was cool about Subtlety, what made it really work, even though Subtlety had really weak sustained damage back in Warlords of Draenor, once you have your Shadow Dance available, and if you can line it up properly, you have bleeds, you have the slice and dice on your enemy off the bat, then you're able to deal damage during that small window. And that's all I feel like rogues are really asking for. It would be really cool if every spec of rogue had that short window, even if it's like an 8-second, 10-second, 5-second window to deal massive damage to the enemy. It's fine if you're just playing CC and peel bod the rest of the time. It is completely okay if always is just running around and just doing the setups, putting the bleeds, you know, getting the prep work done. But it would be awesome if rogues felt like they actually have a window. Outlaw doesn't really have this window unless you have all 6 buffs, and you're basically gambling. You're rolling the bones over and over and over again, trying to get those 6 buffs, and once you have them, you have some massive burst. But until then, it feels like you're just doing setup, and it doesn't feel reliable, because you can be rolling until the next winter before you get the right buffs. Same thing goes for Assassination. All your bursts can come in, but if you don't come in with Bag of Tricks, which is a chance to proc, if you don't come in with Bag of Tricks, it doesn't feel like you have this guaranteed, yes, this is it, pop massive cooldowns, run away, or you're dead kind of setup. It doesn't feel that all that satisfactory. And then same thing goes with Subtlety, as they are so sustain based. Like, watching Subtlety Rogues play arenas, which is really cool, and I definitely, my hat goes out to those guys that are playing 2v2s right now. Like for example, I'm watching PS Hero play Subtlety is awesome as he controls the other target, but it feels like you have, you know, decent amount of sustain-ish damage and great control, but all you can really do is while you're tickling one target, you're controlling the other, not letting the heals happen, and maybe, just maybe, if the secondary target, like a healer, is in control for long enough, then it feels like the damage you're able to put out as Subtlety will eventually whittle the enemy down and will score you a win, and that's kind of basically what the game's come down to. But if Subtlety, let's say, had really weak sustained damage, and then bam, Shadow Dance has some burst, pop some cooldowns, or you are done, I think that'd be a little bit more fun and a little bit more exciting. I think rogues aren't asking to be OP. I don't think rogues are asking to be the strongest class in the spec in the game. I think they just want just some form of consistency. I feel most rogues just want the damage and the burst of, let's say, a Windwalker Monk. Once a Windwalker Monk has his fist lined up, has all these procs, has all these abilities that he's lined up, has all the passives that he's stacking, once he gets all those done and he bursts, he got damage. Pop cooldowns or trinket. I think rogues just want the same thing.